Hi and welcome back to the program. In this video we're going to look at classes and objects and how they are similar and yet different from dictionaries. We looked at the example dictionary in the last video about a lottery player, and I mentioned that a lottery player dictionary can store some data, but it can't do anything. I'm going to quickly go over creating a lottery player class, and then I'm going to explain how they are different and how they are similar. Okay, so this is our lottery player class. Now, a class is essentially a blueprint. A class tells us what data every lottery player has, but we can personalize it. So let's go into running this, and then it'll be a lot easier to explain how things work. So let's have a lottery player, a player variable, and that's going to be equal to lottery player, which is our class, open and closing bracket. What this does is that this creates an object from this class. And when an object is created in Python, essentially we get a new thing, and that thing has whatever properties were defined in this special method, which is the init method, and there are two underscores at the beginning and two at the end. So underscore underscore init underscore underscore. And the properties here are defined as being self.name and self.numbers. When we create a new object, that object is self. So that object gets two properties, name and numbers. The name is going to be Rolf without the comma at the end, and the numbers are going to be this tuple here. So, okay, let's print player.name and print player.numbers for you to believe that what I'm saying is correct. So I'm going to do this, and what you get out is what you would expect. Rolf, 5, 9, 12, 31, and 21. That's the tuple of numbers. So, how is this different from this lottery player dictionary? This lottery player dictionary also has a name and a set of numbers. And also it's a bit shorter, so really, the dictionary is better, right? Well, we looked at in the last video that the dictionary can't do stuff on its own data. So for the dictionary to give us the sum of its numbers, we have to do something like sum lottery player dict numbers. We have to do this because the lottery player dict itself cannot give us a total. It cannot do any operations on its own data. But the lottery player can. Because whenever we define a method inside a class, we can have access to self. And self is the thing that contains the name and the numbers. So here we can do return sum of self.numbers. And then, now that we have the total, we can do player.total. So the key difference is that objects not only have data in the form of self dot the variable name itself dot the numbers, but it can also have actions or methods associated with it. So let's go over to the terminal and run this code. Surely you know what's coming. And 51 is the number that comes out. And throughout all of this, I know that adding together the lottery numbers is not a very useful thing to do. But this is only for example, really. Okay, so what if we wanted to have two different lottery players? We wanted a player 1 and a player 2. Okay, so here we have player 1 being a lottery player and player 2 being another lottery player. So two distinct lottery players. In order to make you believe me that these two are distinct, I'm going to print whether player 1 is equal to player 2. Remember, when we do things with two equal signs, we're comparing things as opposed to assigning things. So when we run this comparison, we get the keyword false, because player 1 and player 2 are not the same thing. Okay? They are two different entities that share the same signature. For example, player1.name and player2.name are the same. If we run this again, we get true. Because in both instances, self.name is Rolf. So here's what self means. Player 1 is self. Player 2 is self. But they are different instances of self. When we do player1.name, what's happening here is that self is player 1. So what we get is the player 1's name. If we do player2.name, what we get is the player 2's name. But they are the same, so why does it matter that we can access one or another? Well, they don't have to be the same. To the init method, we can pass a parameter. And then we can do something like Rolf for the first one and John for the next one. So when we create a new object, we pass in Rolf to be name. Self is automatically generated for us, so we do not have to pass self in. So Rolf becomes name, and John becomes name in a separate execution. Here's a trick question. What do you think is going to come out when we run this code again? Remember, what we're printing is whether player 1's name is equal to player 2's name. Do you think true is going to come out, or false is going to come out? The answer may surprise you. True comes out, and that is because even though we've passed Rolf into this argument and John into this argument, self.name, when we assign it, is still Rolf. So what we have to remember is to put name in there. This name is that one, and self.name, the object's name, becomes this parameter there. Then again, the numbers are always the same as well. So even though now when we run this we get false, because the names no longer are the same, the numbers are still the same because we've not changed them. So both objects will have the same numbers. We can change that though. We can say player1.numbers equals 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, for example. And then we can compare player 1 numbers to player 2 numbers. And we should get false, right? What do you think is going to happen when we press play? Do you think we're going to get an error? Have we changed the tuple? Are we going to get true? Or do you think we cannot change numbers like that? What's your gut telling you? And we get false, which is what I would expect, because player 1's numbers, when the object was created, which is when the init method runs, player 1's numbers were assigned to be 5, 9, 12, 3, 1, and 21. But then we replaced that box. We took everything out of it, and we put something new in it. And what we put in it was 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, and 8. Remember, we have not changed the tuple. We have just removed it and put another one in. And player 2 still has the original numbers there, so the numbers are then going to be different because player 1's numbers are these, player 2's numbers are these, and then we get false. Hopefully that made sense. In the next video, we're going to move over from lottery players into students, and we're going to look at how we can create a student class that has marks, and then we can add more marks to a student and calculate averages and things like that. So without further ado, I'll see you in the very next video, and I'm really excited to guide you through object-oriented programming. I'll see you there.